map out here.
Lost y'all.
Just to show you 46 and 204. Of course, we see Dresser and Taylor right there. Let's see what, rather than walking out through that mud there, we'll just 56 is Schwartz's battery, yeah.
You got
one
across the quicksand.
See the, if you're standing right here, you can see the Illinois Monument shining. That's why when I told you that. So you can see distances. Of course, we were farther forward than that, but you've got Taylor, Schwartz, Dresser. You've got all of those, what's left of those artillery batteries, as they have fallen back and they take position. And you know, the question is, why are they all congregated right here? I mean, why don't they spread out and shoot down there and up here and all that? Well, obviously the Confederates are that direction, but also what?
High ground.
This, well, yes, this is the higher ground. You know, you see it dips where you can see the sight lines. This tunnel through the woods, this drill ground, of course, is offering them sight for the Confederates, and so the Confederates are going to gravitate to where they can see, and the Union artillery is going to gravitate to where they can see. So this duel takes place here for several minutes, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes, and again, it's where everybody talks about all these cannonballs just flying around here. So there are tons of cannonballs probably all out in these fields. As a ranger here, you know, is doing work on monuments and web pages and all that, I would find canister and just all kinds of stuff out here once it's been plowed. I don't know whether I should say this thing or not, but turn it in to the park, of course. But there's tons of ordnance out here from the artillery. What the artillery does in the larger scope, though, is gives Sherman and McClernand. You can see the secondary line of infantry. See the tablets here, moving on with the 45th, 49th Illinois, I believe, and then of course the 16th Iowa show up. This gives the artillery, gives the barrage, and gives time, halts the Confederate advance, and gives time for Sherman and McClernand to reorganize and form a new line, and of course it's from there that they will counterattack. Now, also out of Shiloh, you can get a good view of other things. This is second day stuff, but we'll go ahead and kind of insert it here. You see Thompson's battery, Thurber's battery right there, the closest ones. You can see their positions also on the far hill over on the other side, but just right here, do you see what I'm talking about on the reverse slope? This is a good example of seeing it from out, and there's another good example you can see in the peach orchard like that. You can barely just see those muzzles, and of course if you get a little farther down up here, you can see even less. That's going to help cover somewhat the cannoneers, but it's certainly going to cover the limbers and the caissons and the horses farther down the slope. What I'm talking about? Right. Okay, any questions about this midday involving counterattack artillery duel back and forth? Big concentrations of artillery again. We don't have as big as we had earlier because a lot of guns have been lost and so on, but we're still getting fairly large artillery concentrations.
This is all kind of taking place during a pause.
And the pause and the surge and counterattack and all that, yes. So, you know, if we're learning any lessons about artillery to this point, what might they be? I'm just thinking off the top of my head here.
Line of sight.
Line of sight, obviously. What else? Information. Road network's key.
Protect the artillery.
Exactly. Men are indispensable, right? Horses are indispensable. I'm thinking in terms of infantry versus cavalry, whoever saw dead cavalry, right? Infantry versus artillery, which one is on the top? Which one's the more important here? What's the artillery doing at this point? We've been discussing, talking about it, of course, but how important are they in terms of the infantry? Who's carrying the main load here? I'd say it's the infantry. The artillery is kind of playing second fiddle in between attacks and so on, and maybe defending, but even still getting overrun, as in McAllister's case on in Burroughs and Morton's battery and some of the others as well. So in my estimation, cavalry is not or artillery is certainly not the main arm here. Whoever wins and loses is not going to win and lose because of their artillery here. But artillery is playing a very important but secondary role. It's more of a support role to the infantry here. So infantry is by far, this is an infantry battle. It's not necessarily a boots on the ground. It's not necessarily an artillery fight. Although I don't want to diminish the role of artillery. They do play some role. They're very important here. If I was in this field, I'd be mighty happy to have that artillery there. It would probably just give you comfort nevertheless to hear the big guns as long as they're on your side. It's a little discouraged if they were on the other side. All right. Any other questions? All right. I think what we'll do now. What time is it? Lunchtime. Lunchtime. We're a long way from the lunch. We're on this side of the battlefield. I think what we'll do is to continue on with the first day. Of course, we're at midday and 3 o'clock p.m. or so dealing with this surge and counter surge and so on. I don't think the artillery really plays a major role in going with the infantry. They will hold back here and then they come back. But eventually, as Sherman and McClernand begin to fall back behind Tillman Branch, which that's the valley of Tillman Branch that we're about to cross, they will take a new position on the other side. And McAllister's battery, and Schwartz's battery, and Hickenlooper's battery, of all people, will come in from the Hornet's Nest and be over here. And several other batteries will form in this last line. And one of the major Confederate batteries, really the only Confederate battery that will move into Jones Field and across, to take those under fire will be Ketchum's battery attached to Pond's brigade. And so has anybody ever been to Ketchum's position out in there and then across Tillman Branch and so on? I think that'll be a new thing for some of you that will try that. And again, the main thing is to show you ranges and distances and so on of these opposing batteries. So we'll try that and go across Tillman and hit Grant's last line on the end that doesn't get all the attention. Most of it is the gunboats and the visitor center part of Grant's last line. But we'll finish up the first day on this section of Grant's last line and even look at some of Lew Wallace's folks with Thompson's battery, Thurber's battery, as they come in. And of course, you've got others, Boughton's battery that is at the landing, arrives that morning and comes out there as well. So let's go find Ketchum and Ross. Battery, and then Thurber is a little bit farther, and then some of the others from the first day are there as well. Let's go on down the trail and we'll see Ketchum's position and a little thanks to the pond. For 373. You're making notes of the ones you're going to paint. Mm-hmm. Mona, how many of these have you painted out here? Several of them, haven't you?
Gage, Yardies, and Forrest.
Mona does a good job. She volunteers for the Park Corps.
You have to go through all kind of red tape to get permission to do that, don't you? Didn't you say that last year?
So it's getting a little easier, isn't it?
Yeah.
They know you do a good job.
I would like to do this one and talk to Randy.
Right. Randy's easy to work with. Right. All right. So we see Ketchum's position here. Alabama Battery. Pond's brigade is also in the area. 2 sections, 4 guns. We're in action about 4 p.m., 5 p.m. And what they're doing, of course, is supporting Pond's attack. Pond's Louisiana Brigade. Now, there's one Tennessee regiment, 38 Tennessee, but 2 of those regiments have been detached from Pond's brigade. It's no longer with them. That's 38 Tennessee, the Crescent Regiment. They had been sent farther to guard the Owl Creek Bridge earlier in the day, and by this point in the day, they're back actually at the Hornet's Nest, fighting in that area. The other 3 regiments, Pond's brigade, the 16th, 18th, and the Orleans Guard, militia unit, will make an attack across Tillman Branch here. And really this is an interesting attack as well. You can really see the terrain here. Has anybody followed this attack up the little draw there? let me show you what I'm talking about on the map here. If you want to get closer, you can. We're at Jonesville. This is 373 right here. This is Tillman Branch, of course, Owl Creek, Tillman Branch flowing into Owl Creek right here. So pond is going to attack that direction. This is Grant's last line already forming right here. Now there will be some attacks. When we did Claiborne 4 years ago or so, we actually crossed. You remember the time we got lost? We got really lost back in here. Again, it's kind of Bermuda Triangle here. But we followed Claiborne, we crossed Tillman Branch and followed Claiborne up there, and then went back. The only major attack across Tillman Branch late in the day that corresponds to Chalmers' attack late in the day across Dill Branch will be Pond's brigade as it moves across here and against Grant's last line here. This is preliminary action with Claiborne and Wharton and some of those, but that Union line falls back. So the line basically right here, and then you get last line right here. This is kind of the Grant's last line, doing something like this. So Pond will move across, but he will use terrain. We're going to try to hit this little swell that branches off of Tillman Branch right here. He will use that as far as he can go, and then he'll pop up this ridge. And I don't know if any of you have been to the Pond's tablet out there, but it's a really cool place to see terrain and how that influences troop movements and so on. So we'll follow that as we're following artillery and letting Ketchum cover us as we go across, of course. But we'll also pop out in front of McAllister's battery, Hickenlooper's battery, and ultimately some of Lew Wallace's will come in later on. But at this point, it's mainly McAllister and Hickenlooper up here that will just absolutely rake Pond's 3 regiments as they move forward there. So again, we're seeing artillery on the defensive, not a lot of offensive type stuff here. We will talk a little bit about Ruggles' battery a little bit later, but not a whole lot of offenses, mainly defensive, mainly secondary type stuff. So let's follow Pond's brigade across under the cover of Ketchum's battery. Any questions here? Alrighty. Here to rub up that high.
That'd be one
We growing big down here.
It's good.
Right there.
I don't know, this is too tall for familiar. We didn't traipse across this last year.
Huh?
Did we?
This is further west.
Yeah.
Well, we were last year, at the rock station with us.
Right.
There was one more on the western side of that.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to get
It would be
there.
difficult.
When you're more specific to the droughts and the fall. I have
That Pond's brigade, yeah, we'll come across here and we'll use, you can't really see it here, but once we get funneled into this valley, you'll see how they're using that as shield, yeah.
That looks like a fairly steep little climb over there.
Oh, it is. We're going to climb the one on this side, and it's
Not quite as bad.
pretty, well, no, it's pretty steep.
So would this be historical in nature?
I doubt it. Yeah.
Okay.
So all artillery action by the Confederates, although they fire into that area, they remain south of the Tillman-Dill connection there. Yeah.
So he's the most, his line up there is the most forward on the
West side.
That any artillery comes.
Okay,
Gauge
yeah.
on the other flank
Right.
being the corresponding.
Are there any in the middle, or does it kind of?
No, that's mostly most don't move forward from the Ruggles line.
So it's like 2 points on either end.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that's as far forward as they could get because of the terrain, right?
On the flanks, yeah. Now
Yeah.
they could have moved forward in the center, but
Right.
most of them are
Yes, and
happy just to stay at the Ruggles line. In fact, the next morning, you're holding out on us.
Yeah, I know.
We didn't know you had beef jerky. They're content just to hold off where they are, and in fact, the next morning, we'll find most of those batteries still in their position at Ruggles line there. They could have moved forward, of course, but it's right in the teeth of the Federal artillery. A lot of that Federal artillery goes into the high ground where the Corinth Road runs, as well as the river road, through the neck of the hourglass, as I describe it. So the siege guns and a lot of the other Union artillery is concentrated right there. So that's just a dead man zone. You don't want to be there.
So if they were going to have any success, it would be on the flanks.
They thought so, but terrain such as this, if they do have any success, artillery is not going to be able to help them anytime soon, because to get through something like this, as we saw with Chalmers last year, going through some of these ravines, and Gage's Alabama Battery actually does move through some of those, but they have to bridge these places or either dig out, approach roads for forwards. Moving through the woods like this, the boggy, you'll have to corduroy some of this,
Which takes time.
Which takes a whole lot of time. And, just standing here, I've kind of worked up a little bit of a soggy place just standing here no longer than I was. So through this boggy area, you're going to have to corduroy or at least do some type of road building to get through here.
Very, very deep. By the time
by the time a few wheels go across
and all
it,
the rain that they had had.
They had three days of rain prior to that.
Exactly, and we didn't have a whole lot, and it's still a little soggy down in this valley here. But after 3 days, I would expect water's just standing right here at that point. I reckon we need to go back and.
that is good.
Forward as you figure out where we were up there on your map. All right, that denotes which is first, 16th Louisiana, then 18th Louisiana, then Orleans Guard, I believe. They move up in echelon. If y'all know anything about tactics or anything, echelon is kind of one behind the other, staggered to the side a little bit. So the first one, I believe 16th or Louisiana, might have been 18th, I don't remember exactly which one. They top that hill and they just get blown to pieces, and they run back, and some of the Orleans Guard tells them, we could have done better than that, and they say, you go try, So the next one goes up and they get blown away, and then the next one, by the end, the Orleans Guard figures out maybe we shouldn't try this quite as hard as they did, so they don't lose quite as many men. There is an incident of friendly fire in here as well, a little earlier back in the ravine, so this is not a happy place for the Confederates whatsoever, but this is the farthest advance by a Confederate on the western side of this battlefield. Grant's last line, and we're going to take off through the woods here, is across a couple of minor ravines there, up on the river road, and we'll come out on the river road up there, and that's where Hickenlooper's battery is. McAllister, now McAllister's had a couple of successive positions before this, but they'll be firing up here as well. So there's heavy artillery, and actually what the Union line, I know this is not an infantry talk, but the artillery is situated in the Union line, and essentially what the Union line does, it makes kind of an angle, almost kind of like that of an angle. There's a shank down here along the river road, and then there's a shank kind of down here, so the Confederates are moving up into an angle where everybody is able to fire on them almost from every direction.
Funneled in.
Exactly, kind of like a funnel. That's a perfect way to describe it. So these boys have no chance whatsoever, and they take off, of course, and recross Tillman Branch there. So Ketchum's battery, of course, never crosses Tillman Branch, and as I said, no Confederate artillery ever crosses either one of these. So no Confederate artillery ever reaches the point north of Dill and Tillman Branch in the area of Grant's last line. But of course, Grant has multiple artillery pieces up there that he's able to sustain that line. So this feeds into the argument, was there ever really a chance for the Confederates to break Grant's last line? And we're barely getting Confederate infantry units across Tillman and Dill, much less artillery. I mean, I don't see any numbers being able to be moved across these creeks and moving against Grant's last line on either wing. I'm certainly not in the center with all that artillery. So I am very much of the opinion that Grant's last line is not going to be broken that afternoon.
And this 5 o'clock, when it's already 5 o'clock.
Yeah, this attack occurs about 4 or so. What did the tablet up there say? Do you remember? 4:30 or so. Okay. We'll go by it as we go by, but this is late in the afternoon. There's only an hour and a half or so. By the time this all happens, there's only an hour and a half or hour left in the day, and most of the Confederate Army is south of here, messing with the prisoners captured in the Hornets' Nest, and that takes time do something with all them, you know, and get turned back around and go forward. So I don't see it happening. All this about, you know, Beauregard threw away Johnson's victory and all that. I don't see it. I don't see it happening. So let's walk up to the tablet and we'll find no chance here.
No, I was total bombing you.
Three guns here. Repelling last attack upon McClernand's line. You can see where the cannons used to be, the artillery spots there. Hickenlooper's battery. If we went on that, we're just going to go straight to the visitor center, but you see Beach's headquarters there, and you go down the little draw there. That's the upper reaches of the ravine that we just came up. And Hickenlooper will be on the other side of that at Mulberry Field, and then other artillery on along. So this is one shank of that angle, and the other one there, and pond just comes right up, just like Mona, the app description, the funnel, right in the front. So there's no way they're going to be, you know, able to break this line. All right, that's it pretty much for the first day. Let's go to lunch. I think the easiest way is a straight line. So we're just going to spend
You know that last year, they were talking to me.
Looking up Bill Branch Ravine.
My guy actually was not running. He was Ronald Reagan. Yeah, the dead tank had a mixture. Not Jeff could put a stamp on your re-election. Election responsibility. What effect did you say?
And my theory is that if the Confederates had opposed that, I mean, we're all huffing and puffing because we just came up that thing. I don't know, you may not have been able to stop them. You certainly could have delayed them because it took Beale's army about 3 hours or so to cross from over there to over here and get in, you know, on regular ground and get in line of battle and get ready to go.
And that was without any obstruction.
That was without any opposition whatsoever.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was, you know, they talked about it so thick that they had to case their colors because they kept getting caught in the trees and all that, you know. So had Beauregard been prepared on the morning of April the 7th, and had he opposed this at all, just like Pond did on the other side at Tillman, and we just crossed Tillman, and we know that it wasn't quite as substantial as this even, and still there, Lew Wallace and company are delayed about 3 hours or more, till about 9 o'clock actually, maybe 4 hours, getting into Jones Field. So any delay might have worked on Grant a little bit in the mind, saying, well, I don't know whether this is worth it or not. May not have stopped them, but you know, chances are you certainly could have delayed and produced a whole lot more casualties, but they didn't. And as a result, both Grant's army and Buell's army are able to cross these huge terrain features without opposition. It takes them a while to do it, but they're able to cross, form in line, ready to move forward, and of course they'll move on out before they meet any serious resistance. Forest Cavalry will be in the Cloud Field area. They will be skirmishers, offer a little bit of resistance, but it's not until the Wicker Field area that we really meet somebody we did this last year with Chalmers Brigade that will cause us to really start to push hard. And that's where the artillery comes into play with Mendenhall and Terrell. The Army of the Ohio, once they begin their trek up the river, you know, by either overland with Nelson's division or on boat with Crittenden and McCook, they are very, you know, it's get every man there as quickly as possible. Forget the wagons, forget the tents, forget the artillery if necessary. As a result, Buell's army, 3 divisions strong and more, you know, Wood's division comes later on, but they only have 3 artillery batteries among them in the whole army. You know, it's like, what, 17,000 fresh troops or so, and that's Terrell, Mendenhall, and then Bartlett's battery, which we'll see just a little bit later. So the ones we'll concentrate on, of course, are Terrell and Mendenhall, and their dealings, of course, in the Peach Orchard area. And this will get us back on this western side of the battlefield that we really haven't done much on today. We came up on the first day on the eastern side, so we'll pick kind of examples on this western side and Buell's army to do the second day chronological back. So let's continue on.
We got to see if this is ravine.
Bob refers to as crumbling. Eventually we'll come down to the bank of the river. That'll be flat. You can deal with it.
You got your money's worth yet?
Did you get that?
Oh.
That's what I did on all four. Yeah.
Have they made it up yet?
Walking stick. We are back in civilization, of course, and you see several different examples of things out here. For instance, we just passed Jackson's Tablet. We passed Chalmers Tablet earlier. Those of you that were on the hike last year, we came from that direction through this direction. So we're bisecting, is that right? Bisecting where paths, we're crossing paths of where we were. Also, we're seeing second day stuff. That's 36 Indiana, I believe, 6 Ohio, and this is Almond's Brigade. So we're following the general path of Almond's Brigade, and it'll be here that as we emerge right at Bloody Pond and Wicker Field here that we're going to see Terrell's Battery and get the distances from there to Robertson's Battery up on the Hamburg-Purdy Road, and we'll also look at Mendenhall. We'll deal with Mendenhall just a little bit later, but a lot of different two-day stuff in this general area, so don't get confused with that. Let's go on up to Terrell.
What's the challenge in that?
All right, this is Terrell's Battery, and you see out in the middle of the field Mendenhall. I know you've all seen that position with 9th Indiana, Ambrose Pierce, and then the line, that's Bruce's Brigade and Hazen's Brigade. And Mendenhall is a little bit farther to the west. Here we get Terrell's Battery, H, 5th United States Artillery. And this is one of the 3 batteries that Buell is able to bring with him. All these come by boat. No batteries follow Nelson over that overland route because it's just too muddy and too treacherous. So these 3 batteries come by boat during the night, and very quickly they're sent out into this direction. In fact, McCook's division, when we went over the second day several years ago, McCook's division is fighting over on the Carton Road. That's over Duncan Field area. That division is. So Buell makes the purposeful decision. He actually makes the decision, since Nelson has no artillery whatsoever. He's gonna funnel this battery out this direction, and they will go into action here. Their main antagonist is Robertson's Battery, which if you look up the river road here, you see Hurlbut's line on the first day. That's the 41st Illinois Monument. That's Sarah Bell's cotton field, and that's the area Johnston, of course, was wounded in and died in and so on. Then you go down into the Mule Lot, and then up on top of the hill, which we're going to go up there just again to show you distances, is going to be Robertson's Battery, Napoleons, 4 Napoleons that we talked about earlier. So they're going to deal back and forth. Mendenhall's going to be involved in this as well. Now Terrell gets involved in some of the infantry action. It is here that not only do they deal with the Confederate artillery of Robertson's Battery, McClung's Battery is a little bit farther down as well, and they'll be involved. There is some evidence, and I haven't been able to actually nail it down, and the Park Commission couldn't go so far as to nail it down. And hence there is no tablet or guns out here, but there is some indication that other Confederate artillery units are out here, perhaps Sweat's battery. There's an indication maybe, I believe, that Bankhead's battery, portions of it may be out here. So really don't know, but there is additional artillery than just Robertson's battery. I'm also convinced there is artillery as far forward with Chalmers' brigade as Wicker Field. When Nelson's division moves forward and they get to the northern edge of Wicker Field, they meet Chalmers' line out here. Chalmers is kind of stuck out, kind of like Pond is on the other side of the battlefield, and they're the initial contact here. And we get the great story by Ambrose Bierce that they went across the field and hightail it back, and they're all breathing hard and all that, and the young lieutenant rides up to his colonel and says, "There's a heavy Confederate line on the opposite side of the field." Of course, they'd just been volleys after volleys coming out of there, and like, tell me something I don't know kind of thing, you know. But there is artillery here, and I'm convinced it's Robertson's battery, but again, no firm indication by the park commission or anything. But they fall back, in the main Confederate line, as we talked about a year or two ago, is at the Hamburg-Purdy Road there. There are essays by the Confederate right, if you're looking this direction, the Confederate right, namely Chalmers' brigade out in this area, that will actually attack, and this fits into the larger narrative that I argue that the Confederate Army has a lot more punch and firepower than we think normally on the second day. And they're able to counterattack in isolated counterattacks all over the battlefield. And one of those is Chalmers' brigade will actually outflank Ammen's brigade. We just saw Ammen's line here as they move forward, and there's heavy fighting in the little field across from the peach orchard out there. The Chalmers brigade is operating in these ravines they know very well from the day before, and they outflank that line, and they actually get so close that I believe Terrell's battery has another position farther forward that's not marked by the commission, but they actually get in such a heated position that they have to fall back. So Chalmers actually drives Terrell's position back. This says 10 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., but I think there are multiple positions within this larger marker right here. They lose, I believe, a caisson. They don't lose any guns. They're able to limber up and get away. There's a great example of retreating by prolong, where you hook the rope. If you're familiar with artillery, there's supposed to be, obviously you can't put it out here because it doesn't last long, but there's supposed to be a rope, you've probably seen on reenactor guns and so on. Here, that's called a prolong rope, and what you do with that, you hook it to the trail here, and you hook it to the limber, and as the horses pull the limber, basically you just pull the cannon along the ground, and while you're pulling it back in the tree, the cannoneers are loading the thing, so you can load as you're falling back, and retreat by prolong, and that's what Terrell's battery does. And of course, eventually they're able to move back forward and retake that position when Ammen's brigade counterattacks and all that. So it's all part of the give and take, but Terrell's battery is heavily involved here, and we'll see Menning Hall a little farther forward. Let's walk up to Robertson's position just to show you again ranges, and you'll see kind of the lay of the land that we're dealing with.
There's a heavy line of individual brigades. The perfect response.
Battery. You don't really get a good idea of how much this is high ground until you come through that we just came out. In fact, just right in there when you're looking, can't really see it, but you see Johnson's death monument, the mortuary monument out there, and it's on much lower ground. So this is very high ground on which the Hamburg-Purdy Road runs. You can tell why they're putting the artillery on this high ground. And how far from Terrell's position we just were. Where we just were.
Whoa.
Bad English. 600 yards?
Yeah. I would think.
And again, these guns are not accurate. These were Napoleons. They say on here, yeah. This battery 4 12-pounder Napoleons is in action here Monday, April 7th until 1 p.m. This is the section of the Confederate line that doesn't move in the first couple of Confederate withdrawals on the Confederate left, as Lew Wallace outflanks that first line at Jones Field, and then outflanks the next line at basically the Hamburg-Purdy Road. It's only then that this section of the line will begin to fall back. So you see Robertson. Now we're going to see more of Robertson as we go forward. In fact, we're going to cut right through here and see that famous example on the first day, and I realize we're kind of back and forth. We're trying to keep the narrative of the first day and then second day and so on. But as we pass significant spots in terms of artillery, I'll show you other things. It's Robertson's battery that's involved in that mess that becomes Myers' battery, the 13th Ohio, I believe, in the peach orchard out there. And we'll go to that position, but Robertson's battery was back on the Eastern Corinth Road at that point, which is a good long ways as well. And it's a shell from there that blows up that, what is that? Is that a turkey or
Oh,
a-
dog, it's some.
That from last year?
Well, them geese.
Look at the geese, goodness.
They're kind of going the wrong way, aren't you?
I don't know, I've seen that many, like, what? Y'all know why one leg of the V is longer than the other leg?
Now look at
Got
this
more
form,
geese
too.
in.
More geese in the we may get bombed right here, reckon? You reckon they got us on their northern bomb site?
Why,
I had a guy do that to me. I had a guy do that to me about 15 years ago, and I've never forgotten it.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, he said, yeah. Why? I mean, think that got more geese in. I was like,
Got me, right?
got me.
All right, back to our regularly scheduled programming. It's Robertson's battery up on the Eastern Corinth Road that fires the shell that blows up one of the limbers in Myers' battery, and we'll see that in just a second. What is really interesting is that from this position, Robertson's battery retires back to that very same position on the Eastern Corinth Road. And y'all know where I'm talking about. Do you know where you go down to Prentice's headquarters? The gun's right there. That's Robertson's battery. And there's a great letter, I think it's in the Alabama Department of Archives and History, actually. Dent, I believe, is a lieutenant, and he talks about, well, all through the battery, but all through the battle, but they take the position, and he talks about on the second day retiring to the very same position that we held the first morning, and how they turned one gun to cover this, offshoot road, and really gives some detailed descriptions about it. There's a lot of good information on Confederate artillery, Union artillery for that matter as well. And that's one of the significant letters dealing with Robertson's battery. Let's walk over to Myers' battery and see where that occurred. You can kind of get a taste of distances from this. Of course, we are out in the middle of this cotton field. You see Herbert's line on the first day. Also first day, you can see Nelson Williams' first line farther south there. And that's his initial position. Then he will fall back to the main line where the Confederates will attack him. Another thing in terms of artillery, do you see Mann's battery right there? That's another example I was talking about. You see how you can just barely see the tops of the muzzles sticking over the ground there? That's going to protect some of the cannoneers, but it's going to protect the limbers and the horses and so on. I know I'm beating a dead horse to death.
Literally.
Literally, yeah. But I can't emphasize enough how important those horses are for these artillerymen. Myers Battery, that's where we're headed. On the first day, there's a huge artillery duel between Harper's Battery, which is one of the most photogenic spots on the battlefield, right under that tree. Some of this artillery, particularly Lane's Battery or Lawson Fisher's Battery. So we got artillery flying all over the place. Right here. Coming around the street. 13th Ohio Battery connected to Herbert's division. Remember, on the day or so before the battle, Graham reorganized everything. So Myers Battery is new to Herbert's division. And as a result, Herbert really doesn't know him, and there's some issues there. On the morning of April the 6th, as Herbert gets word to form his division and begin to move forward, and they go into line of battle at Wickerfield and begin to move out into this area, Myers Battery is continually late. So there's already problems with Myers Battery. Herbert has to continually send staff officers. Where are you, Myers Battery? Why are you not up? Why are you taking so long to get limbered up and get out here? We need you. So they take a position here, which Herbert states is too far forward. And if you look at this position, why is it too far forward? What have we been talking about all day? Have we beaten the dead horse enough? Low ground. Well, I mean, we're on high ground, but it's too high a ground. We're on the kind of the front slope, almost the military crest. If we took Myers' position back there as an example, where should Myers have placed his gun? Perhaps a little farther to the rear to cover. You might not think that would make that much difference, but perhaps it could, because what happened from Robertson's battery up there on Eastern Park Road, y'all all know the distances we're talking about. Myers battery members gets hit with a shell, and boom, everything goes just chaos. And as you read on the tablet here, this battery took position. I don't have to read up there now. Here at 9 a.m. April 6, 1862, and soon after abandoning its guns. You can just tell the vitriol between the lines there. Hurlbut really, if you read his report, really has some dirty things to say about him. That they abandoned too far forward and unlimbered too far forward and all that. And he talks about they abandoned their guns and they ran away from their guns and all that. And something about I didn't see them again till Tuesday, he said. So he is very much on them. The state of Ohio was not proud of them at all. Of all the Ohio units here at Shiloh, every single one gets a monument. We passed quite a few of them today, except Myers Battery. And there is no monument for Myers Battery. So because they ran away and abandoned their guns, they didn't get a monument. There was some casualties within the battery though, which indicates either they did some fighting beforehand, which is long range stuff. Chalmers Brigade Jackson has not gotten to this point yet, or either that some of the cannoneers go into other batteries and fight maybe the rest of the battle with other batteries. So I am sure not all of them were cowards, as they're sometimes depicted as, but Myers certainly was not. He didn't come out of this in a good way. He's cashiered from the Army, I believe, and all that. It's kind of another one of those iceberg situations, But hey, if one of your limbers blows up right behind you and torn to shreds, they said, it would have an effect on me too, and I'd probably run too. I don't know. But that's the story of Myers Battery and Robertson College. Let's head on over and let's pick up Mendenhall. We've dealt with Carroll. Let's run over and pick up Mendenhall and see what's going on in the camp.
How experienced was this group of soldiers?
Oh, this is their first battle, just
So
like
they
the rest of them.
Right.
Pretty much all of these, except those that
Carroll's?
had been tied to McClernand and C.F. Smith's division at Fort Donelson, are pretty much all green. McClernand's division are the ones that had the most experience, and we're talking about Dresser that we dealt with earlier, McAllister, Taylor, and Schwartz in that division. C.F. Smith's division, we're talking about the Cavender's Battalion, the Missouri contingent, Stonewall and Richardson, and then Peter Wood's Chicago Light Artillery will be attached to Lew Wallace's 3rd Division. They'll be in the 4th Division, or actually in the 2nd Division with MacArthur as he comes out later on. So again, they switched completely around, but there are only just a few artillery batteries that have seen any action here. And there are actually, we talked about Stanford earlier, there are artillery batteries here at Shiloh on the Union side that the first time they hear their guns fire, they're shooting at the enemy too. Silver Spar, Silver Spar is a prime example. I don't know that for sure for Myers Battery. They may have done some target practice or something, before with live ammunition and so on, which even that is very different than never having shot your gun before. I remember the first time I shot a cannon for the Park Service. They would send us to black powder training. You would run through all kind of drills and all that kind of stuff, dummy firing, just drilling and so on. And the last day, they would take us out to the range, and it's like a 2-week training course to oversee black powder in the park, And they would take us out, and we would fire blank rounds and all that, and I remember the first time that happened, I was a little nervous, like this thing is really loud. I'd heard them before and so on, but you're standing right beside the thing, and that gets your attention. And I believe the last of the day they had actual projectile parts. We'd shoot those things. They made them out of zinc. They were zinc balls, and we'd shoot those things. And I don't remember. It seems like each cannon got one, and that was the big hurrah. You got to fire a live round out of the thing. And one of the crews I remember was on a Napoleon, and they had a 12-pound ball, and all that, and somehow they got the elevation way too high, and we were on like a 50 cal range, which just goes forever, you know, and it looked like a mile or so. But they shot that thing. Of course, you can see a cannonball just like a bird. You know, you would think you wouldn't be able to see it, but you can watch the progress of a cannonball, slow velocity. And they shot that thing with the elevation too high, and it was the berm at the end of that thing, like way past those trees down yonder. That thing was still going. It's probably still going today, you know, and that's been 10 years ago or so. But that was an amazing sight. All right.
You can understand how they got scared. They've never really been
that
around,
was
and
the point I was trying to make.
And you having
Dave.
somebody firing at you too.
Exactly, yeah. And then something goes to boom in the rear that we know good and well that ain't supposed to happen, you know. And so they're completely.
So the horses all went everywhere too.
Yeah, exactly. Scared horses and scared men and all that. So you can kind of understand, and not all of them by any means are cowards. And probably Myers himself is not a coward. He was just taken up in the situation. I don't know. All right, any questions? Let's go find Mendenhall.
Danger reared its ugly head.
Do I?
The danger reared its ugly head.
Yeah.
Myers turned his tail and fled.
Hey, what happened to the ball game?
Over number 471.
Oh, that's sad. Okay.
Right across the road from Harris, over at St. Harris.
Saw one out in Wicker Field, and there is, I believe, an intermediate one between here and there, and then this one. And so what they continually do is shift to the right throughout the day, as indeed the Army of the Ohio shifts toward the right throughout the day. And of course they're back with Trittman's division here, the parent division. So Carroll is fighting with Nelson's division, Trittman, Mendenhall is sitting here, and then Bartley, who you're going to see in just a little bit, with the 6th division over there. And we won't go into all the action here, but this battery is heavily engaged at this point. There is vicious fighting through the hornet's nest, just like on the first day. All we hear about the hornet's nest is the first day. And all those 7 or 8 or 11 or 13, I've heard all of it. You know, different charges through the hornet's nest. Probably I go with 8 or 9. Probably 8. Depends on. Well, we won't get into all that. We're on second day. At any rate, the fighting on the second day is just as vicious as the Federals are pushing forward, and there's Confederate counterattacks into the hornet's nest, and it's kind of funny. Some of Crittenden's officers describe this in real eloquent terms. They call this the chaparral, you know, almost European, like the hedgerows in Normandy or something. But they call it this dense jungle, this thicket, and so on. So even after all the fighting on the first day is still as thick as can be, and you can't see through it and so on, and heavy fighting there. So Mendenhall will be engaged here, as will Bartlett, will be turned in this direction, but their main focus is going to be across Duncan Field, and we're going to go there next and get some more ranges. This is not necessarily counter battery fire going on here. This is anti-personnel with the Confederate surgeon and so on here. There has been some counter battery fire between them and, say, the Washington artillery down there and so on, but here it's mainly anti-personnel. So let's walk over to Bartlett's division. Battery G, 1st Light Artillery, Bartlett's battery, this is Crittenden's division. You see it's missing some of the probably cannonballs went here, but everybody kind of just takes this as part of this line of artillery that you see. See Stone's battery back here, Welker, this is I believe Richardson's battery. What these other batteries that have these tablets here are denoting are first day positions for W.H.L. Wallace's division artillery. This is Cavender's battalion, Welker, Richardson, and Stone. And so they hold this high ground behind the hornet's nest. And we're fixing to go across and see where the hornet's nest is in relation to this. The only artillery on the line at the hornet's nest, of course, are Munch's battery and Hickenlooper's battery. And they're right up on the line. W.H.L. Wallace's division artillery is on the high ground farther behind. And so this will bring in, I told you we would get to Ruggles battery a little bit. This will bring in the purpose of Ruggles battery and convinced that the purpose of Ruggles battery is not necessarily anti-personnel, to drive the Union artillery out of the hornet's nest, or to drive the Union infantry out of the hornet's nest. It is more anti-artillery, is counter-battery fire, to drive the artillery out of the hornet's nest. Because most of the Confederate officers, as they're riding, you know, Gibson and others, talking about attacking the hornet's nest, they don't say a withering fire from the infantry, and I mean they do talk about that a little bit, but the main thing they talk about driving them back, particularly in Gibson's case, is the artillery. And remember, Gibson has no artillery on his own brigade to counter this. The only artillery before Ruggles' concentration there, and obviously there is debate over whether it's Ruggles or Shoup or two combinations or whatever, are Sweat's battery and Smith's battery that are much farther back, and then Robertson's battery, we just talked about, way up the Eastern Torrance Road before it engages in Ruggles' line there. So the Cavender's Battalion here is driven off by about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That tells me that really the Ruggles artillery is concentrating more on the artillery, the enemy artillery behind than it is the anti-personnel in the Hornet's Nest itself. So these batteries begin to take off and go. So as we go forward, get again a look at ranges and distances and so on, and we'll talk about how far it is from this line, this high ridge in the rear of the Hornet's Nest, over to Ruggles Battery. Now the other thing to look at on the second thing, as we're moving through our chronological aspects here, we get to Bartlett's Battery, 14th Ohio, and what is it? A Battery G first light artillery. Burroughs Battery, 14th Ohio. At any rate, this artillery will be here, and they will shell Burns Battery, which is across the Eastern Torrance Road. They'll be involved there. I think there's another section, but that's another one of those things that you can't pinpoint. Somebody over farther with Lovell, Rousseau, and McCook's division. But this is the only major battery here, except for Mendenhall and Terrell farther down the line. They will deal mainly with Stanford's battery. And we've talked about Stanford before. Stanford is in his basic same position that he was in when the day ended yesterday on April the 6th in Ruggles' line. Now they're still there on the morning of April the 7th. And ultimately when Bartlett and company get out this far, they will deal with Stanford farther to the south there, to the southwest. So as the attacks take place and eventually as Crittenden and McCook move forward, they will meet Breckinridge's division in Duncan Field, Statham's brigade, and there'll be heavy fighting back and forth in there, and there's good resources for that. It'll be back in that area that Stanford's battery will hold the line when Statham's brigade breaks and falls back, and then they'll fall back to the review field area, and that's where I believe 4 of their 6 guns, several of their guns are actually captured. So the artillery deal that we're concentrating on is Bartlett's here with Stanford, and we're going to go and try to hit Stanford, and maybe, we may hit a battery up and down the line, 1 or 2 or something, but we'll find it. But think in terms of ranges of how far we're talking about here. Any questions here before we take off through here? All right.
When these guys withdrew from the Hornet's Nest, did they go all the way back to the landing?
Well, actually, Bartlett's battery will run out of ammunition and will basically take off. Mendenhall will question this. He'll say, Bartlett just took off, But they will take their limbers and basically go back to the landing for more artillery or more ammunition, and they won't really be a major factor for the rest of the day. Their heaviest fighting, hence the monument here. They put the monuments at their position of the heaviest fighting. In fact, we can read, what it says. It's hard to read. Battery's 5 guns in action here. 10 a.m. was engaged 2 hours when it retired for ammunition. Yeah, its loss was 2 men wounded. So yeah, this is their major impact.
Right, a back and forth, yeah.
Any other questions? All right, you probably walked up and down the Hornet's Nest line, the Sunken Road line, and so on, but we're going to, again, bisect it and get a little different view of it. As they deal with Bartlett on the other ridge, of course, on the first day, as you see, they're engaged here from 3 p.m. April 6th to about 11 a.m. Monday, April the 7th. So they just basically stay here overnight, where they finish the day with Ruggles Battery, and then they're there the next day. And Statham's tablet should be, it's a circular tablet, should be the just right up, I think that's it, right down there. But they're supporting Statham's brigade. Trebu's brigade will be next in line down there. Bowen or Martin will be next in line right down here. So this is Breckinridge's division, which fights as a coherent corps on the second day, which it had not on the first day. Many others do the same thing on the second day, that they're not thought as a coherent unit on the second day. at any rate, they will battle and they will kind of hold the line here when Statham's brigade actually breaks in Duncan Field. And they will break and fall back, and Stanford's battery will hold the position here. I'm not sure I agree with, it talks about 4 of its guns were captured, holds this position. It intimates that the guns were captured here. You can read it, they held the position, then the guns were captured. I think the guns were captured farther back at Review Field. There's an intermediate movement in there that if you read the report a certain way that I'm not sure that the guns were actually captured here. So a little bit of something we don't necessarily know. We know the guns were captured. So again, you can get distances there, and you can see action on the second day. All right, questions here. Let's head to the crossroads, and we'll talk about Wood's counterattack there. McAllister's battery, we'll see them again, and then Shiloh Church, and we'll end the day there. So here with this famous attack that Wood's brigade makes on actually what is the Confederate left's 3rd line. He will attack McCook's division, the joint actually between McCook's division and Sherman's division, drive a wedge in there through Water Oaks Pond. There are tons of sources that talks about Lieutenant Colonel Kelly of the Arkansas Regiment riding through the pond on horseback, and there are a bunch of things that mention the pond here. There's not a contemporary 1862 account that mentions Bloody Pond at all. There's just not one. Probably there, probably soldiers bled in it, I don't have any doubt that happened, but there's no evidence of it that I've seen. But there is evidence of the pond here, and I guarantee you there was blood in this pond too, but that just becomes known as Bloody Pond. So Rutledge's battery is involved here. The other thing to show you is the Federals continue to move forward. Some of the Army of the Tennessee artillery units will move forward with their wing of the Army. Not all of them by any means. Most of them that are more shot up are remaining back at the landing and just where they were at Grant's last line. But a few do move forward. One of those is McAllister's battery, and that's their position right there. You see with the oval tablet. And they will be firing in here. We're starting that tablet, and then Schwartz's battery, and then Wraith's brigade. You see the Illinois monument skipping right on down the line? Yeah. You can see just perfectly McClernand's line of battle there, and spacing in terms of regiments and so on. I just love looking down that line right there, because you can see it just plain as day. Very well, the range is here. Part of the regiment reserve here. We're engaged in the final action of the day. That said, 3 p.m. Of course, Beauregard is calling off the Confederate Army around 2:30, so same time. This is one of the intermediate final lines, and they'll hold here till everything falls back across Shiloh Branch. And just as Grant used Dill Branch and Tillman Branch as a shield on the end of the first day, Beauregard will use Shiloh Branch as a shield on the end of the second day, and that's when Shoup gathers up all of this artillery in basically the same spot, although it's not marked, basically the same spot as they were on the first day with the 24 guns, of course. And of course the Federal armies will not contest that. They'll let bygones be bygones, if you will, and won't contest that. Lew Wallace's division will cross Shiloh Branch, but very quickly will move back and occupy Buckland's campsite there. All right, so that's about going to do it. We'll see Shoup's position up here, but